Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. And it's social updates. Some of you, obviously, social dress updates you haven't been cognizant of before. Have you, Shylock? Now he's dressed like a Shylock today. Look at him. Everybody turn around and look at him. Black, darkish tie, dark shirt. He's either that, well, he couldn't be a bouncer or a doorman because he's too fucking little. But I mean, that's what a Shylock looks like. A money lender. But anyway, I meant to pass it out yesterday when I was, and you all look better than my norm, but you want to look, when they look at you, they don't want to have to explain about it. White shirts, light blue shirts, period. Cufflinks or not cufflinks, it's up to you. Cufflinks cost money, so the buttons, as Sally would say, on the shirts are free. So the button-down shirts are fine, but if you don't have button-down shirts, make sure you put the stays, you know, those fucking little things that go on the collar to keep your collar straight so they don't look all wrinkled up. Most of you have the modern kind of pants. I can't get your modern kind of pants. I can't get them over my calves. So I still wear old-fashioned pants that have, and I still like the cuffs. Most of your clothes are too tight. You don't have any muscles anyway. But that's a style. I understand that, you know? I understand that. But anyway, don't read it right now. You don't have to report on it. This is a mercy fuck piece of paper. But it's not as bad as showing up with dreadlocks and you know the kind of not earrings, but the things that kids put in their ears that are like big, like not nickels or quarters or silver dollars. You know those big fucking things. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, well, it's not as bad as that. But we've got guys getting it done even with that. But they follow the steps. The only way to not get it done is don't follow the steps. And even though, you know, I got a couple of emails last night and one said, aren't you exaggerating about they don't follow the steps? And in a word, no, I'm not exaggerating because you won't. I mean, and I hate to use the March guys as an example because it's, some would say it's an unfair example because you sent them out there then like lambs to the slaughter. But I didn't because I told you don't do anything. But you're going to do exactly like March did, except you heard me. Because it's easier to go get your uncle to be chairman. Not that there's nobody in this room that's got maybe one person in this room that's got an uncle that's prestigious enough to be your chairman. Maybe, probably not. And just like Gerard did. That's what the guys and gals do. They go out because that's easier. It's within their comfort zone. But anyway, the way you look is critically important. Now, today, because of Corona, they don't see what you look like from the waist down, because a lot of guys sit in shorts and whatever, and then they dress up from the waist up. I don't particularly like that, but I've had guys in meetings that are dressed from the waist up, and then there's a Zoom call, 6, 8, 10 of us, and they forget to blank the screen, and they get up to go to the bathroom, and you can see they're wearing boxer shorts. That's how stupid you are. It happens all the time. That's how fucking stupid you are. And the guys that are laughing now are the guys that are going to do it. By the way, laughing is a coping mechanism. The reason why he laughs so much is because he's insecure. Everybody in the room, laughing is a coping mechanism. Do you understand? Verstehen coping. It's your way to reflect, or deflect, excuse me, not reflect, deflect. People that giggle, like, in my estimation, Warren Buffett. Do you know how he giggles every time he answers a question? Is it because everything's fucking funny? No. But these are not tricks of the trade. This is leadership, business, appearance 101. And when you see last night you saw the only alpha male other than myself that we're going to talk about at Oxford, just as I was privileged to speak there 5-6 years ago. But just remember that when you giggle and you laugh, it's because you're reflecting. And anybody that's beyond the third grade understands this. Everything that people say isn't fucking funny. And by the look on your faces, I can't believe that nobody's ever told you that. Has anybody? Well, I guess not. I mean, I won't say you look depressed, but some of you look depressed. Now, how is that 25 years, 35, 40, 45 years old that nobody's ever told you the reason why you giggle and laugh is because you're insecure, you have low or no self-esteem, and it's a coping mechanism. Has anybody ever heard that in this room before? Other than from me? 2, 3, 4. From me. I mean, I'm transparent. I've told board members, shut the fuck up. It's not funny. Shut the fuck up. It's not funny. Or I'll say, what's so fucking funny? Mm-hmm. And these are the things that people pick up on. That's why I like face-to-face meetings, because I can, and I don't like sitting in rooms. There's a reason why I can see your feet. So I can see if you're, all these things count. And when we talk today after lunch about how you set up the board, not the board meeting, but the board atmosphere and the nuances of the board room, we'll talk about that. All this stuff counts. There's a reason why back in the old days when gunfighters, they were going to shoot it out, and they wanted to put the sun at their back. So that makes it harder for you. You understand? All these things count. And when you add them all up, we don't have just a little leverage, we have a lot of leverage. And in this country, they say they're on their back foot. That means you're making them uncomfortable. And we are going to show you, we've already begun to show you, how you have to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And most of us are taught, except for me, all your lives to just do the opposite, i.e., non-confrontational, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm not the only confrontational guy left on the planet, believe me. You go to certain parts of the hood, and there's a lot of guys that will get in your fucking face like that. I've been away from that several decades, but I still remember it. Like in the movies Grease and, where the gang and one guy stands in front. But from this point going forward, you're going to be the guy in front. So and remember, when recruiting the board, you're the shield. Now, one of the things I say when I recruit for the board, and I just did it because I'm chairman of a deal, I told a very, very high-profile guy who the U was lucky enough to get on the board. I said, I just want you to understand, sir, that if there's any problems vis-a-vis the board, it's my problem. If anybody's got to fall on the sword, it's me. And all your life, you've run away from falling on the sword. That's leadership. And then one of the senior guys said, the U didn't understand what I was saying. And so the older guy on the board, and was a Zoom call, said, that's what you call leadership, young man. I fall on the board when I'm chairman. Nobody has to worry, ever. I'll say I did it even if I didn't do it. And you've been taught the antithesis of that all your life. I'm not expecting you to fall on the board if you catch a board member stealing. And D&O insurance, somebody emailed me, you haven't talked about D&O insurance. I did mention it, but we weren't on YouTube. Directors and officers insurance is to protect the board only against a mistake. It doesn't protect the board against malfeasance. If the board and or any of the directors or the directors know, or a director knows that one of the employees is stealing and he doesn't do anything, he's not protected by that D&O insurance. Directors and officers insurance is very cheap. These are old numbers, but I mean, you can get $10 million for $5,000 or $10,000 a year. It's peanuts. And the reason why normally only American directors ask about D&O insurance, like your buddy, is because over 40% of all outside directors, that means non-executive directors, get sued in America yearly. 42% yearly. So that means you've got a 2 in 5 chance of being sued if you're on a board. And that's why they ask. In Europe, directors get sued rarely. In other parts of the world, it's laughable. So nobody worries about it. But in the United States, it is a concern. But it's easily covered. And you get the D&O insurance when you incorporate, when you form the GmbH, etc. That's when you get it. But in the Corona era and pre-Corona era, and I get weekly reports from kids that came through 5 years ago. I get weekly reports from kids that went through 25 years ago. Because once you get in the habit of holding yourself accountable and you see the results you get, I mean, well, why am I so efficient with my time now vis-a-vis a year ago? Well, it's pretty fucking easy. If you keep track of everything you do daily, and you see when you do a lot of shit, and there's not that many cunted out, I didn't do it, and you get directors, you get accountants, you get lawyers, you get banks, you get motivated sellers, it's pretty easy. Ergo, well, geez, I guess me keeping track of my time makes sense. But we're having, not a plethora, but we're having a few of the kids during the Corona time because, in my judgment, because it's not face-to-face, they're losing control of their boards. So they came to me with no leadership skills, and they're not having to meet people face-to-face, and they've recruited virtually everybody on Zoom fuck or Skype fuck, and it's hard to keep, it's hard to keep control. It's hard to keep control. And that's almost always with the young kids, not the older guys, because they lack life experience. That doesn't mean you need a life coach. Some people misconstrue that. I have this gray hair and these wrinkles because I've had hardship. Now, some of the gray hair is genetic. Go through all that shit. But because I've been fucked a lot, and more importantly, I thought I had been fucked a lot until I started coaching. You kids, if it's pro rata per year, I mean, you're going to be fucked 25 million times before your career is over, because you get fucked every time you turn around. Every time you turn around. Later on today, we're going to talk about our goals and affirmations. We're going to continue with the board. But one of the differentiations, I was once asked on a TV interview many years ago, what differentiates me from the also-rans. And I said, words to this effect, not dissimilar to Eli Manning said, I dreamt it, I believed it, I felt it, and then I did it. When I came to this property many years ago, it was like deja vu. I'd been here, even though I hadn't been here. Now, part of the reason that I felt so comfortable is because I'd been at 18 other large estates when I decided that I want to be the laird or the lord of the manor. Okay, you saw Steve last night. What are some of the takeaways from Mr. Ballmer? A bright guy. Now I think he's the largest shareholder in Microsoft. I believe he is today. What about Steve? Other than he's not you.
His best advice from his father is, if you do a job, then do it. And do it with passion. And also be sure that you execute and measure it. That you.
What was that word? Measure?
Yes, measure.
What gets measured gets accomplished. Okay? Now, I used to think all dads talk like Ballmer's dad. I now know, after almost 28 years of doing this, virtually no dads talk like that. And remember, the only goal my parents had, especially my father, was to keep me alive till I reached the age of reason. Not to graduate from junior high school. Nobody even had a glimpse, a glimmer of me going to university. Because I was doing crazy shit. But my dad, you saw what my dad wrote me on my 12th birthday. Although it said to my son, it sounded like he was talking to, making a presidential address or some bullshit. So he was, but he never treated me like a son. He treated me like a subordinate. Like in the military, which he spent a good portion of his life in. And when I was up, not dissimilar to when I showed you when I first got my grandchildren in my hands, Sally says, kiss it. Oh. That's my dad. Except I can't ever remember him kissing me until he was maybe 80. I can't remember him ever hugging me till he was in his 80s. I remember him beating me, slapping me. I remember he slapped me in mass once. I was getting ready to go up to communion. And I don't remember what I did. But whatever I did, he didn't like. So he was sitting in the row behind me. As I got up to go, when you go up and you get the wafer, he grabbed me by my collar and pulled me back. Now, what do you think all the people who were sitting around me thought? And when he got up, his coat opened up and he showed his gun. He didn't show his gun on purpose. But the kids in the neighborhood used to say, Mr. Peña is a psycho and he carries a gun. He carries a gun. Yet, when he was in town, all my little buddies wanted, when's Mr. P going to be here? Because they wanted to be around a real man. A real man. Not dissimilar to when we lived in the United States, they used to ask our children, when's your dad going to be in town? And there was a 50-50 chance I'd smack the kid when he was there. Because he said or did something I didn't like. Yet he still wanted to be there. What else about Steve? Yes, sir.
He said the most important thing in business is to learn how to sell.
Fucking man, he's a salesman. That's all he is. What else? Yes, sir.
He's really high energy. You increase
Oh,
the
you
energy
mean like
of the
you
room.
guys? High energy. There's another hand. Yes, sir.
I said if we have an idea, we have to learn how to stick with it. So we shouldn't change. And if our idea is trash, we should get rid of it. But if it's good, we should keep it. And it may take years, but we just keep doing it till we get it right.
How many heard him say, you don't have to know anything? And you want to know everything. He wasn't a coder. He wasn't any of that stuff. And you want to know everything. Sometimes I'm surprised to see, even though when I ask you to put your net worth, some put nil, some put zero, some put minus. First of all, I'm not sure you know how to calculate a net worth. Because I've gone back, I don't do it anymore because even though I don't mind embarrassing you, I said, how do we come up with this number? Exactly. Even though I don't like to explain myself, why don't you explain to me exactly how you came up with $3 million or 3 million whatever? You got to take debt. You got to subtract shit from the total. You don't have to know anything. It's one of the hardest things for you guys to accept for 27 and a half years, that when I got into the oil business, I used to say proudly, I didn't know enough to put on the head of a pin. Now, 30 some years later, I am an oil guy. I'm a forever oil guy. I really understand more about mining and coal mining than I do oil, but nobody ever asked me any questions about coal mining. I don't think I've been asked 2 questions in 30 years about coal mining. But I don't know anything. Well, I didn't know anything. And some of you will be already in the one-on-ones I've had are gravitating towards something what's in your comfort zone that you know something about. I.e., there's a few of you in IT. And so you think maybe cybersecurity but cybersecurity is harder than bedpans to roll up. There's no comparison. There's no comparison. And part of the reason that bedpans sell at low multiples is because there's no barrier to entry. 0. You can go buy a fourplex and put 2 people in each bedroom, and you're in business. If you're not going to have be in a licensing mode with substance abuse, etc., you're in business. There's few regulations. Anybody can start it. And people die in the business. And what you're really in the business of when you're doing assisted living is you're replacing the people that die as quickly as humanly possible. We've had people start bedpans that flipped out of it because they couldn't stand the death. That's understandable. But all you guys that are willy-nilly want to do bedpans, you better get used to doing 2 things. In the beginning, wiping shit from old people's asses and death. And I can see by the looks on your face, none of you have even thought of that yet. All you thought about is the 35% margin. And a few of you in this room, I just don't see, I've only changed 1 diaper in my life, so I'm not an expert, that you wipe the old git's ass. Now, it's a toss-up. What is most distasteful to you? Wiping the old git's ass or, he passed away last night. Roll them out. There should be a morgue associated with every assisted living. Normally, it's not a morgue where they keep it going. It's just an extra room that they pile the dead bodies in. Well, I can see some of you aren't going into bedpans now. What did you think? That they just come with wheelbarrows and they give you the money? Apparently so. There's a downside to every model. What else about Steve? Yes, sir.
So, a billion people will be added to the world in the coming years, and communication, health, it's going to be a lot of creation. And third world countries might emerge. And, I'm sorry. And he mentioned that the world is constantly changing. Everything we see today is going to change in 10 years. So we need to adapt.
Well, now it's not changing in 10 years. Now it's changing in 10 weeks. The bedpan model has been flipped over on its head now because of Corona. Unfortunately, the Four Seasons, which I told you earlier, is one of the great assisted living healthcare roll-ups in the history of Europe, which I was a part of. One of our old homes in Glasgow, they found 13 or 17 dead bodies that had been stored there that had died from Corona that they forgot to report. That's a four-season home. Now, how can you forget to report 13 dead bodies? How can the British government forget to report 16,000 deaths from Corona, which has just come out here in the UK? Did they forget? I'm a little skeptical about that. But the naive public, even though the politicians are trying to poke hole, the liberals are trying to poke hole in the Tory story, but most people in the world, or not in the world, excuse me, in the UK, because they're naive, because they've lived in a similar bubble-wrapped life like you, I guess they forgot. Now, in your combat battle, 13 bodies can get misplaced. But this isn't, even though Glasgow is a battleground, it's not likely that those in the rest home or the assisted living home got misplaced, and it's certainly not possible, in this man's opinion, that they misplaced somehow 16,000. What else about Steve? Yes, sir, in the back.
He stressed the importance of keeping a good relationship with your accountant beyond the numbers.
Yes. What else about Steve? Yes, sir.
Talked about businesses that were one-trick ponies, and some with Microsoft a two-trick pony.
All these icon guys, myself included, want to not be just a one-trick pony. I will get down on my knees and kiss your feet if you're just a one-trick pony. I don't expect you to be a two-trick pony. I'd rather you be lucky than good. I'd rather be lucky than smart. Like when Jack Welch says he's a lucky man, well, I'm still waiting for my fucking luck. All the luck I've had in my life is bad, that I turned into good, because I wouldn't accept the results. You're not at that stage yet. Yet. I can make bad shit gold. But I've been doing this 50 years. They all want to be a 2-3 trick pony. Now, every time one of you guys arguably is on his way to the Hall of Fame and gets on the Hall of Fame, that's another trick for me. That's another thing that I produced something from nothing. The key to the QLA model is you start with nothing and you produce not something but lots. That's poor English. But most of the people in the world are broke. We already know that, vis-a-vis what's happened with Corona and the money you can get from the government has been paying out. Again, I wouldn't pay out a nickel. I wouldn't pay out a nickel. And all these big airlines, everybody else, it's supply and demand. If we don't need any fucking planes anymore, then let them go. Or maybe we only need 2 airlines. We certainly don't need the 60 or 70 airlines we have around the world now. What else about Steve Ballmer? Yes, sir.
Comment question. Steve is known, he's very aggressive. I've been told inside and read about his meetings and his style of management. But in all of his interviews, he was really kind of coy. He giggled a lot.
Because he was nervous. He said at the beginning of his talk, if I remember correctly, I know I was nervous because I know this is going to be on YouTube forever. And he is. Some of the slides, and I didn't go through them, is a trial that when they sued AT&T, sued Microsoft, etc. And Ballmer is the witnesses say, he choked the guy, tried to throw him out the fucking window. That's Ballmer, and that's me. But now everybody's got a camera, don't they? Fine, have a camera. I don't give a fuck. That's my persona. That's my brand. That is not Steve Ballmer's brand. All these guys, not all, but almost all the guys' brand is to be liked. Apple's got 400 more products they want you to buy from them over the years. So they don't want you to hate them. And I can say that for almost all. In fact, I can say that for all the big brands. Prada shoes or Prada, whatever Prada makes, they don't want to piss you off because they want to sell you some more shit. The other gurus don't want to piss you off because they want you to buy more shit. My brand is, fuck you, strong letter to follow. And the fuck you, strong letter to follow has produced hundreds of billions, and the others haven't. Success leaves clues. I don't want you to be liked, I want you to be effective. Down deep inside, you're trying to figure out, how can I still be effective and have somebody saying something nice to me? Or not so much to you, but about you. Remember, sticks and stones can break my bone, remember? Maybe a generation or two ago, your family heard that. But certainly not now. Anything else about Steve? You've seen I'm not going to ask you who can relate to Steve because somebody's going to raise their fucking hand and lie. I don't want to, I don't want you to perjure yourself. But he's 1 out of 100 super successful, high performance people. His personality, his traits. Most, remember, I told you, all the other guys, save 1 or 2, are introverts. They're introverts. And a few of them giggle when they're interviewed. Next time somebody giggles, laughs, just remember what I just said. And for sure, other than wiping your hands when you meet these guys, this is post-corona, like this, make sure you're not giggling and fucking when you're, even if they say something funny. I assure you they're not going to be trying to say something funny. And just because you feel insecure or out of your depth or out of your comfort zone, don't laugh. Now, another thing, and it got me thinking about what Rebecca said about she makes her kids, boys, wear T-shirts under their shirt. If you have a tendency to perspire, and I mean there is a sickness where you perspire more than other people. I understand that. But if you have a tendency to perspire when you're under stress, nobody can make you anxious other than yourself. Anxiety is self-induced. Wear a T-shirt under your dress shirt. Because the last thing, well, not the last thing. The last thing is, you jerk off in front of him or something. But you don't want him to see perspiration. And when I was in Israel, I dressed like this. And I'm the only guy in the meetings, other than my guys that are with me. Everybody else is wearing like white shirts, short sleeve shirts that you don't tuck in, out here. And when I was meeting with Modi, before he was a finance minister, I believe he was an energy guy, and I met him, and they kept me waiting at the Hilton for 10 days before I got to see him. And the only good thing that came about me staying at the Hilton is I met the Olympic swimmer of that era, Jewish guy, 8 gold medals. What? Mark Spitz. He's sitting at the other end of the bar, slurping down things, and he says, "Hey, can I buy you a drink?" Yeah. I went down and sat next to him, and so we're talking about 10, 20 minutes, and he says, I didn't say anything I didn't know who he was then. And so he said, "You recognize me?" "No." And he says, "I'm Mark Spitz." "Oh, you mean the Olympic guy? Oh, the gold medal guy from 72 or whatever it was?" Yeah. He says, "What do you do? What do you hear?" "I'm waiting to see the minister of such and such, sports or whatever." "How long you been here?" 13 days, he says. Fuck! At that time, I'd already been there 8 days. And he said, they're just playing games, And now he's Jewish. I didn't know he was Jewish. And he said, the Jews just play games with you. See, they want you to be on your back foot when you get in to meet with them. And then I found out subsequent to that. And so when I went to meet the energy minister, and he said, "Mr. Peña, thank you very much for coming here all the way from America, blah blah blah. Royal Dutch Shell wants to drill in Israel. Blah blah blah. Why would we pick you?" And this is a famous thing I said, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. "Mr. Minister, with the greatest respect, you know the difference between chicken shit and chicken salad?" He says, "Yeah." And he says, "You've been dealing with a chicken shit, and I am the chicken salad." And he laughed. His bodyguard didn't laugh. I laughed. And he says, "By God, I think you've got enough chutzpah. We'll give you the contract." That was the end of the meeting. That was it. And, but his bodyguards didn't have much of a sense of humor. In fact, they had no sense of humor. Zero. They were just waiting for me to, like a James Bond movie, to take my glasses off and, throw a knife at him or some shit. That's none of that happened. Okay, anything else about Steve? Now, tonight, you see the greatest scumbag of them all. We've been leading up. We're setting you up for the kill. And and there's a real dichotomy between this guy and the other guys. Other than Steve, are all introverts. This guy's an introvert, but to say he was successful is understatement of Quran proportion, biblical proportion. Okay, now today we're going to go through the rest of the board, and I'm going to show you how to interview the banks. And remember, you're interviewing them. And once in a while, a banker will ask you, is this a beauty contest? And the answer is yes. Beauty contest meaning you're going to talk to a lot of people and pick, okay? The answer is yes. Even though your instincts tell you to say no, the right answer is yes. And they may say, okay, and who else? Well, some will just say the meeting's over. Fine. Thanks for your time. Now it's a Zoom fuck. You didn't fly or you didn't drive 15 miles to get there. And but some will say, okay, who else are you talking to? Unless you've signed a confidentiality agreement with a financial institution, it's not confidential. And rarely do they, financial institutions. Now, if you talk to a sovereign fund, like the Kuwaiti sovereign fund, or the Norwegian sovereign fund, or the Chinese sovereign fund, which I've done work for, they make you sign the fucking thing, the 10-year thing. But in the beginning, it's not likely that you're going to be meeting with those people, so you're not going to be asked to sign a confidentiality. And there's a difference between a non-disclosure agreement and a confidentiality agreement. Confidentiality agreement is they're protecting their name. They don't want you to use their name. NDA is they don't want you to share the deal that you're looking at. But when you're talking to financial institutions, you're not going to be other than general concepts of free cash flow. And you should say multiple free cash flow. But then don't bring them a deal that's only 1.5 times cash flow. If you say multiple cash flow is multiples of debt service, then it better be multiple. And so normally the kids just say free cash flow will always cover debt service, and I won't waste your time. Now I used to add, and I won't waste your time. And so then I say, okay, we're talking to B of A, we're talking to Deutsche Bank, we're talking to, but don't just bring these names out of the cloud, as they say. I used to say the cloud before there was a cloud, but you don't just bring them out of thin air. Because then they may say, well, who are you talking to at B of A? And then you're fucked if you lied. And then your credibility is down the toilet because you lied. Okay. And they may say, well, what have you learned from dealing with the other banks? And what they're really asking you is, what are the other terms they offered you? But you don't give them that answer. You say, what I've learned is there's more money than deals out there. And that will rock them. There's more money than deals, which is true. Now, you haven't found the more money yet, but he knows that's true, especially this time of the year. I've already gotten a few emails, where do I get 100 million, where do I get this, where do I get that? What they're really asking me is would I put in 100 million, but they don't say that because they know I don't invest in deals. In 27 years, 3 times I put money in your deals so they wouldn't die. They wouldn't die. I'm the last white, black, or red man that you want money in a deal from me. Because I make Shylock look like a prince. I make the Shylock back there look like an angel. Because I am the lowest form of hard money lender. Hard money. First thing I do is I take 20 points of the deal. 20 points, 20% of the deal. No liabilities. Second thing I do is I lock up every fucking asset you have worth more than $1 as collateral. Third thing I do is I try whatever the highest usury rate that's legal in the state or city that you are, I charge that. But then I go to the safe, I say, the money's here. And almost all of you signed it, or the 3 times that you all signed it. Because I just used to open the safe up. How much was that again? But I've only done it 3 times to save 3 deals. And they paid me. And I still remember my assistant at the time who's retired now, she says, God, this is a better business, Mr. Peña. Shylocking is better. And I never had to break anybody's knees or do anything like that. But the other end of that kind of lending is you break knees. And on that happy note, YouTube, and I'd love to break your knees as well, metaphorically speaking, because I would never want to hurt you.